The Galactic Senate was never silent. It was always a place of noise, arguments, trade deals, and endless politics. But today, the sound was different. It was not anger or debate. It was laughter. Loud, mocking laughter that bounced off the keel. Tall crystal walls of the Grand Chamber, holographic banners floated in the air, showing a single image, a spinning blue and green planet. The word stamped under it was Earth. Above the image, a large red warning glowed. Class 5 Deathworld. The title should have made the senators nervous. In the galactic language, Deathworld meant a planet so dangerous that survival was nearly impossible. Constant predators, deadly weather, unstable lands. Only the most resilient species could even visit, and almost no one could live there permanently. But instead of fear, there was laughter. One senator, a tall insectoid from the scary Dominion, tapped one of his claws against the floating hologram and said in a voice that carried across the chamber, "Look at it. Their oceans are full of monsters. Their lands crawl with venom and claws. And yet, these humans walk on it like it's nothing. It's absurd." The other senators chuckled. An elder from the Trelvas Union, with skin like molten silver, waved a hand dismissively. "Deathworlders. They are just a myth in our history books. Dangerous, yes, but nothing more than a curiosity. A zoo exhibit." The laughter grew louder. Some senators began trading jokes. One suggested sending a diplomatic team to Earth wearing full armor, not for protection, but to avoid catching human madness. Another proposed hosting a Deathworld Olympics, inviting humans to wrestle wild animals for entertainment. At the edge of the chamber, a young alien reporter sat with his recording device. His large, owl-like eyes blinked nervously. He whispered to the being next to him, "No one actually survives long on a Class 5 world, right?" The older alien smirked. "They survive. But they don't matter." The young reporter tilted his head. "Why?" The older one shrugged. "Because the galaxy doesn't fear jokes." But even as the laughter continued, the chamber doors opened with a sharp hiss. A messenger drone floated in, its lights blinking an urgent red. The Senate's main display screens flickered, replacing the spinning Earth with a new image. Distorted, full of static. Then, through the interference, a human face appeared. It was a man, pale-skinned, dark-eyed, with a faint scar across his jaw. His gaze was direct, sharp. For a moment, no one laughed. The man's lips moved, his voice cutting through the static. "We're coming." The image vanished. Scene 2, the betting game. It didn't take long for the senators to find their laughter. Again. "They're coming," one senator repeated, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oh no, lock the doors, the humans are coming." Another added, "Yes, and maybe they'll bring their poisonous frogs as backup." The chamber erupted again in cruel laughter. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy. Humans make vague threat to Galactic Senate. The networks replayed the static-filled clip again and again, often with added sound effects and cartoonish graphics to make it funnier. In military circles, the reaction was much the same, at least at first. Commander Ralph Vach of the Zagiri Dominion sat in a high-ceilinged strategy room, his forearms folded across his chest. Around the table, officers from several allied species chuckled over mugs of steaming drinks. "So," said General Kalara of the Trelvas, "how many cycles until the humans actually get here?" "I say they never even try," Ralph grinned. "Oh, they'll try, but I bet they won't last a week." The room murmured with interest. Betting was common among officers, small wagers to keep morale up during slow times. "I'll put 50 trade bars on them lasting less than 3 days." One captain said. Another laughed, slapping the table. 3 days? You're generous. I say 2. Soon, the officers had turned the arrival of humans into a betting game. No one in that room thought they were betting on their own survival. Scene 3, the first signs. 5 days later, the first. Warning came. It was not a fleet. It was not a declaration of war. It was a sound, a signal so faint that only the most advanced border listening posts caught it. The signal contained no words. Just a single tone, low and steady, repeated every few seconds. At Outpost Serica 4, an old communication technician named Pollen stared at the sound wave on his screen. "What is it?" asked his shift partner. Pollen frowned. "I don't know. But it's not natural. It's deliberate. Someone's sending it." "From where?" Pollen checked the coordinates. His skin turned pale green. "Outer black. No trade routes. No colonies. Just deep space," his partner scoffed. "Probably smugglers." But deep down, Pollen felt a pressure in his chest. He knew better. The signal was clean, precise, military. Scene 4. The arrival 3 weeks later. Outpost Serica 4 vanished from all records. The last transmission sent from the station was scrambled, but a few seconds of video survived, the crew looking upward in horror as a massive shadow passed over the outpost. Then the feed cut to black. The Galactic Senate called an emergency meeting. This time, there was no laughter. Reports began trickling in. Strange ship sightings near the frontier. Unmapped debris fields. Colonies losing contact. Still, most leaders believed it was just pirates or some rogue state. But then came the message. This time, it wasn't static. A single human warship appeared on multiple border scanners. It was unlike anything the aliens had seen. Long, sleek, painted black, its hull marked with deep crimson streaks. It moved at a speed that should have torn it apart. It broadcast only 2 words. Phase 1. Scene 5. The first mistake. The Allied fleet assembled quickly. 12 destroyers, 3 carriers, and a swarm of smaller escort ships. They were told it was a show of strength, not a real battle. The humans, after all, were just a joke. Commander Ralph Vach stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human vessel appear on the edge of the tactical display. He smirked. "One ship," he said to his crew. "One ship against all of U.S." On the view screen, the human vessel slowed. Its com channel opened. The same human face appeared again, calm, collected, with that faint scar on his jaw. "You were laughing," he said softly. "Why did you stop?" Ralph leaned forward. "This is your last chance, human. Turn around, or we, the human, cut the channel." A moment later, the human ship vanished from every scanner. Ralph's crew gasped. "Where did they?" one began. Then alarms blared. The human vessel reappeared, behind the Allied fleet. Scene 6. The change in the room. In less than 30 seconds, 2 destroyers were gone, torn apart by weapons no one recognized. The human ship moved like a predator, always vanishing. From sensors just before striking again, Ralph's orders turned to shouts. "Regroup! Focus fire!" But the humans never stayed in one place long enough to target. From the bridge of a nearby carrier, General Kalara watched the destruction in stunned silence. Her crew looked to her for orders. She had none. This isn't a joke," she whispered. Closing scene. The silence before the storm. Hours later, what remained of the Allied fleet limped back towards safe space. Of the 12 destroyers, only 4 survived. 1 carrier was lost. Hundreds of lives gone. The human ship didn't pursue. It simply broadcast the same 2 words once more. Phase 1. In the Galactic Senate, no one laughed now. The young reporter from before played back the first transmission, the scarred human saying, "We're coming," and felt his feathers rise in fear. The smiles were already starting to disappear. The alien fleet floated in perfect formation, hundreds of thousands of kilometers from the nearest star. 12 destroyers, 3 carriers, and nearly 50 smaller escort ships hung in the void, their hulls reflecting the faint light of distant suns. The combined fleet of the Zgiri Dominion and Trelvas Union was the pride of the border worlds, heavily armed, heavily shielded, and certain of victory. On the flagship Vorok Spear, Commander Ralph Vach leaned back in his chair, tapping his claws on the armrest. His second officer approached. "Sir," the officer said, "the human ship has appeared at the edge of sensor range. It is slowing." Ralph allowed himself a cold smile. Good, they came to talk. A moment later, the viewscreen lit up. The same human face they had seen in intercepted transmissions appeared, the pale-skinned male with the faint scar along his jaw. His dark eyes studied them with calm precision. "Human vessel," Ralph began in his most commanding tone. "This is Commander Ralph Vach of the Dominion Fleet. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons," and the human tilted his head slightly. As if bored, Ralph continued, his voice growing sharper. "If you resist, we will open fire. You are outnumbered," and the human's lips curled into a faint smile. Ralph paused, unsettled for the briefest moment. "What's so amusing?" The human spoke for the first time, his voice steady. "This is amusing. You think this is first contact. You think we came to talk." Ralph narrowed his eyes. "And what did you come for?" The smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "To test our weapons," the human said. The channel went dead. "Scene 2, the vanishing ship. Lock weapons." Ralph roared. The order spread through the fleet instantly. Dozens of alien targeting systems locked onto the lone human vessel. From this distance, it seemed small, no bigger than a medium cruiser, with a sleek black hull and crimson markings that glowed faintly in the dark. "Fire!" Ralph commanded. A storm of plasma bolts and missile trails streaked through space, converging on the human ship's location. They hit nothing. "Sir, they're gone," an officer shouted. "Gone? Impossible. No ship can," before he could finish, alarms blared across the bridge. The human vessel had reappeared, directly behind one of the destroyers. How? Ralph's question turned into a curse as he watched the human ship open fire. Its weapons didn't look like plasma or railguns. A strange blue-white beam cut through the destroyer's shields as if they weren't there. The ship split apart silently in the void, its glowing interior venting into space. "Destroyer Valkus lost," came the report. The human vessel vanished. Again. Scene 3. Panic in the ranks. General Kalara, commanding from the carrier Iron Talon, tried to bring order. "All ships, adjust formations. Pair up and cover each other's blind spots." But the humans ignored formations. They reappeared seconds later in a completely different sector, cutting apart an escort frigate before vanishing into nothingness again. "They're using some kind of jump drive," one of her science officers muttered. "Short range, near instant. We can't track the pattern." Kalura's voice hardened. "Then predict it. If we don't find a way to pin them, they'll—" A blinding flash lit her viewscreen. Another destroyer exploded. Scene 4. The psychological strike. The human vessel finally appeared on open comms again, not on the fleet channel, but directly into every bridge, every crew quarters, every personal comm unit. The same scarred man stared out at them, his voice calm and almost gentle. "You're not used to this, are you?" he said. "You're used to wars of attrition, long sieges, predictable moves." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. "We don't do that." And then, just as suddenly, the feed vanished. The human vessel disappeared from sensors. Again. Scene 5, the trap that failed. Ralph decided to try something desperate. "All ships," he ordered, "shut down active scans. Power down weapons. We'll pretend we're disabled. Lure them in." The fleet went dark, their systems dropping to minimal output. In the stillness, only faint navigation lights glowed. Minutes passed. Then, a flicker. The human ship reappeared between two carriers, exactly where Ralph hoped. "Fire everything," he bellowed. Hundreds of plasma bolts, missiles, and energy beams erupted from the fleet. For a moment, it seemed they had done it. The human vessel's shields flared, brilliant white against the black. But instead of shattering, the glow intensified, and then the human ship spun in place, unleashing a single pulse of energy that rippled outward like a shockwave. Every alien ship caught in the blast went dark. Lights out, engines dead, weapons offline. Ralph's own bridge dimmed as emergency power kicked in. The crew scrambled in confusion. They just shut us down, whispered his second officer. Scene 6, Close Encounter on the Carrier. Iron Talon. General Kalara felt her ship drift helplessly in space. A shadow fell across the viewport. Slowly, the human vessel moved into position alongside her ship, close enough that she could see the smooth black armor and crimson streaks. Up close, a single bright light came from its bridge. She saw the human, the same scarred man, watching her. And then, impossibly, he raised his hand and waved. Kalara's stomach tightened. The human ship jumped away. Scene 7, The Aftermath. Hours later, emergency systems brought partial power. Back to the fleet. They limped toward the nearest starbase, humiliated. Out of the 12 destroyers, 5 were gone. 1 carrier was crippled. Dozens of escorts destroyed. The humans had suffered 0 losses. In the debriefing, Ralph tried to mask his shame. They outmaneuvered us. We were not prepared for their technology. Kalara said nothing. She kept remembering the wave, casual, almost mocking. This wasn't a warning. It was a promise. Closing scene. A new fear. Back in the Galactic Senate, the news spread fast. No one laughed now. The human transmission played across every world. A short video of the scarred man, standing on his bridge, saying only 2 words, phase 1. The senators looked at each other in silence. The smiles from before were gone, replaced by a quiet, heavy fear. And somewhere in deep space, the human fleet prepared for phase 2. The war room of the scary Dominion's high command was filled with voices, but not laughter. The walls were lined with large tactical displays, each showing damaged fleets, burned colonies, and lost supply routes. Only a week had passed since the human attack on the joint fleet, but the shock had not faded. At the center of the table, Supreme Admiral Tovak slammed his clawed fist down. So they destroyed 6 destroyers, crippled a carrier, and escaped without a scratch. What are we doing about it? No one answered immediately. The silence spoke louder than words. General Kalara of the Trelvas Union finally spoke. We underestimated them. We thought they were like us. They're not. Tovak's eyes narrowed. Explain. They don't fight for territory. They don't follow predictable supply lines. They appear, destroy, and vanish. Kalara's voice was calm, but inside she still felt the cold weight of that human wave burned into her memory. One of the younger officers tried to lighten the mood. So they're clever pirates? No one laughed. A communications officer stepped forward. Sir, you should see this. The large holoscreen in the war room flickered. A news broadcast from a neutral trade station began playing. It showed a group of alien civilians standing outside a bar. They were talking, smiling until one of them mentioned humans. Instantly, the smiles faded. The reporter's voice came through. It seems the events at the border have spread quickly. The word human no longer brings jokes, but silence. Kalara stared at the screen. The smiles are disappearing. 2 days later, the first planetary blackout happened. The colony of America 9 was a bustling mining world, home to nearly 1 million workers and their families. At 3:14 local time, every light went out. The planetary defense grid, the communication towers, the mining equipment all dead at once. A patrol drone caught a brief image in the upper atmosphere, a sleek black shape with crimson markings, moving faster than the eye could track. By the time engineers restored partial power, the damage was done. The central ore storage, a reserve worth billions, was gone. The humans hadn't destroyed it. They had taken it. This wasn't conquest. This was calculated theft. The Senate tried to keep the news quiet. Official statements called it an isolated pirate attack. But word spread faster than official lies. In the markets, traders spoke in hushed tones. They come at night. On space stations, travelers whispered, "You never see them until it's too late." Even the military was on edge. Patrols began. Shooting at shadows. Convinced humans were cloaked nearby. Kalara was summoned to a private meeting with Admiral Tovak. The room was dim, with a single beam of light over the table. "They're attacking worlds far from our fleets," Tovak said. "They're cutting supply lines, taking resources, and leaving our ships stranded." Kalara nodded. "They're making us spread thin." Tovak's voice lowered. "We've intercepted fragments of their communications. They have something called Operation Silence. What does it mean? We don't know, but whatever it is, it's working. Every world they touch stops talking. Not just because they're afraid, because they can't. Their comms go dead, completely." The third blackout came 4 days later. This time it wasn't a mining world. It was a Senate-aligned medical planet. Farallon Prime. The world had no military value, only hospitals, research labs, and refugee shelters. When the blackout ended, there were no bodies, no signs of fighting. But every database had been copied. Every medical record, every experiment, gone. A message was carved into the main plaza, burned deep into the stone in the human language. "We warned you." Baha'i Command tried to assemble a trap. 20 warships were hidden in asteroid fields, near likely targets. They waited. And waited. The humans never came. Instead, they struck a completely different sector, 3 colonies in one night, each on opposite sides of the galaxy. It should have been impossible. No single fleet could travel that fast. Kalara read the reports in disbelief. "It's not one ship," she whispered. "It's never been one ship." Meanwhile, in the neutral zones, strange stories began to appear. A cargo hauler swore they saw a human vessel drift alongside them in dead space. No weapons fired, no comms opened. The human ship just stayed there, watching, for hours. Then it was gone. A refugee claimed she was rescued from pirates by humans. But when she tried to thank them, they only said, "You'll see us again." Every story ended the same way, with the humans vanishing before anyone could react. The Senate tried to reclaim control. They issued statements, called for unity, promised safety. But the public wasn't listening anymore. In the entertainment districts of core world capitals, comedians quietly removed human jokes from their acts. In schools, children began daring each other to say the word human out loud. The word was becoming a curse. One evening, Kalara found herself alone in the strategy room, staring at the glowing stars on the galactic map. Red markers showed human attacks. The pattern was spreading, thin lines reaching deep into territory, like cracks in glass. Her comms officer entered quietly. "General, we've just received a direct transmission." Kalara turned sharply. "From where?" The officer's voice was low. "From them." The main screen lit up. The scarred human was there again, standing on his bridge. This time he wasn't smiling. His expression was cold, hard. "You think we want your worlds," he said. "We don't. We want your attention. We have it now." He stepped closer to the camera. "You laughed at us. You called us a joke. Now every day, another smile disappears. Soon, there will be none left." The transmission ended. Kalara stood in the dark, her hands trembling. For the first time in her career, she felt certain of one thing: this war was not about territory or resources. It was about sending a message, and the galaxy was beginning to understand it. The storm was unlike anything this Giri Dominion had seen in centuries. Lightning cut across the black clouds. But it was not ordinary lightning. These bolts were bright green, carrying deadly radiation that could burn through most armor. The Wind screamed over the jagged mountains, carrying razor-sharp dust that could slice exposed skin. The Dominion's elite 3rd Strike Battalion was trapped inside their armored carriers, systems straining to keep out the storm's poison. The commander, a reptilian veteran named Zarek, stared at the flickering sensor display. Nothing can survive out there, he growled to his crew. A soldier at the rear glanced nervously at the dark shapes moving in the distance. "Sir, something's moving toward us." Zarek snapped, "Impossible." No alien could. A figure stepped into the light. It was human. The man walked straight through the storm, wearing only light armor and a sealed visor. The green lightning flashed across him, but he kept coming. In one hand he held a rifle. In the other, a strange metal device. 2 more humans appeared behind him, their movements calm, steady, as if the storm was nothing more than a gentle rain. Zarek's blood ran cold. Weapons up. Before his soldiers could react, the first human raised a device in his hand. A sharp pulse of blue light erupted, and every Dominion carrier went dead. Engines, weapons, shields, all gone. The humans kept walking. Hours later, the 3rd Strike Battalion was gone. No one saw the fight. No bodies were found. The only trace left was a single sentence burned into the side of a disabled carrier. Phase 2. The reports spread fast through the Dominion and the Trelvas Union. These were not simple raids anymore. Humans were appearing on worlds with extreme weather, toxic atmospheres, and crushing gravity, places no other army could even enter, and they were winning. On the volcanic moon of Laris 4, the ground itself was alive with molten rivers and constant eruptions. The air was so hot it could boil most species. Blood in seconds. The Dominion's mining outpost there was considered untouchable. Even pirates avoided it. Then one night, the sky above the molten horizon lit up with a fiery streak. A human. Drop pods slammed into the ground near the outpost. 3 minutes later, the outpost's central command tower exploded. Survivors reported seeing black armored humans walking through fire and ash as if they were strolling through a park. One carried a flag, not of conquest, but of warning, a red symbol painted over black steel. Even in the coldest corners of space, they came. The ice world of Brachus 9 was a frozen wasteland where temperatures stayed below -180 degrees. The Trelvas had a research station there, buried deep under the ice. One morning, they found the outer doors melted, not broken, melted. The heat required to do that should have destroyed the attackers instantly. Instead, the humans walked in, took every piece of research data, and left without killing anyone. But they did leave something behind, a box. When the scientists opened it, they found a small holographic projector. It played a short loop. "We survive where you cannot. Stop us if you can." By now, the Senate's fear was turning into desperation. The humans were not just unpredictable, they were everywhere. No environment could stop them. No defense. Lasted long. In a hidden Senate meeting, General Kalara faced the highest-ranking leaders of the Dominion and Trelvas. "They are not a fleet," she said, pointing to the holographic map. "They are a swarm. Independent strike teams, each able to survive and operate where we cannot. They don't need bases. They live off what they take." One senator asked, "Then how do we stop them?" Kalara's reply was simple. "You don't. Not unless you learn to think like them, and you can't." Meanwhile, on the front lines, the stories grew stranger. On the jungle world of Pharaohs 3, where plants could kill with a touch and the air was thick with venomous spores, a squad of Dominion soldiers claimed they were stalked for days by unseen predators. At night, they heard footsteps. In the morning, their supplies were missing. On the 4th night, one soldier swore he saw a human face in the shadows, smiling, before disappearing again. When the squad finally evacuated, they found the word "run" carved into the side of their landing craft. Even more terrifying was the human ability to adapt to alien weapons, on the acid world of Drella 2, Dominion artillery tried using a chemical barrage that could dissolve metal in seconds. The humans returned hours later wearing new armor, clearly built from the same acid-resistant materials. They had just been attacked with DOT. It was as if every failed attempt to stop them only made them stronger. The galaxy began whispering a new name for them. Not humans, not Deathworlders, but the unstoppable. Kalara knew the truth. They weren't unstoppable. They just refused to stop. No matter the danger, no matter the cost, they would push forward. One night, as she studied the growing map of human incursions, her comms terminal flashed with an unauthorized transmission. She accepted it without thinking. The scarred man appeared again. This time, he was not on his ship. He stood on a barren, wind-swept plain under a blood-red sky. "This is our world," he said, his voice almost lost to the howling wind. "Not Earth, this." He turned the camera to show a vast wasteland, storms, jagged rocks, no signs of life. "This is where we trained. You thought our home was dangerous? This is worse. And we survived it for years." He turned back, his eyes burning into hers. "You still think you can outlast us?" The feed went dark. Kalara sat in silence for a long time after that. She knew the truth now. Humans were not fighting for planets or for pride. They were proving a point that would break the galaxy if left unchecked. The Deathworlders didn't stop. And they never would. The council chambers of the Galactic Senate were unusually quiet. For weeks, reports of human attacks had spread panic through the galaxy, yet no official response could stem the fear. Every world whispered of humans who could survive anywhere, strike anywhere, and vanish without warning. General Kalara sat at the edge of the chamber, her claws gripping the edge of the metallic table. She had seen the humans firsthand, their skill, their unpredictability, their endurance. But now she realized there was more to their war than she understood. Something older. Something personal. Across from her, Admiral Tovak slammed his claw on the table. "We need answers. Every fleet we send fails. Every colony we try to reinforce is already emptied, destroyed, or looted. What are they after? What do they want?" Kalara shook her head. "It's not about resources. It's not about territory. They are hunting." "Hunting?" Tovak's voice rose in disbelief. "We are not prey. We are the strongest powers in the galaxy." Kalara's gaze hardened. "Not for them." Far from the Senate, in the dark corridors of a captured Dominion command station, a lone human operative crouched. Her movements were fluid, silent. She carried a small container. Inside it, fragments of data stolen from the Dominion archives. She transmitted the data to a hidden relay for analysis. The human captain, the same scarred man who had appeared countless times across the galaxy, studied the reports on his sleek black bridge. Every image, every record, every shipment and battle log was neatly cataloged. "Every trace they left," he said softly, "leads back to them. Every strike, every battle, every colony they took, it was meant to remind them." A young soldier on the bridge asked, "Remind them of what, sir?" The captain's eyes darkened. "Remind them of what they made us suffer. Years ago, during the early expansion of the Dominion into the outer territories, humans had colonies scattered across dangerous planets, planets labeled Class 5 death worlds. The Dominion considered them weak, primitive. They raided these colonies for profit, enslaving workers, capturing scientists, destroying infrastructure. Entire settlements vanished in a single campaign. The galaxy remembered it as a minor skirmish. But for the humans, it was personal. Survivors, scattered across hidden worlds, endured horrors the galaxy couldn't imagine. Brutal weather, deadly creatures, starvation. Yet they survived. Every loss hardened them, every trial sharpened them. They became the true Deathworlders. Back in the Senate, An alien intelligence officer presented a decrypted fragment of human communication captured from the front lines. The message was simple, yet chilling. They laughed at our death. They thought we were a joke. Now we will remind them what fear feels like. Kalara felt a shiver run through her claws. This isn't war, she whispered. This is vengeance. Tovak's eyes widened. Vengeance? Against whom? They're attacking fleets, yes. But they're striking colonies without armies. Hospitals, research stations, civilian worlds. That's madness. Kalara leaned forward. That's the point. They are teaching a lesson. Every world they touch, every strike they make is a message to the galaxy. Do not underestimate humanity. Meanwhile, on the border of Dominion space, humans prepared their next strike. On the jungle world of Korath 5, where massive predatory plants could devour a human in seconds, a team of Deathworlders moved like shadows. They carried weapons adapted to the planet's poisons, armors resistant to acidic rains, and devices that could neutralize natural hazards instantly to the Dominion soldiers stationed there. It looked impossible. The humans appeared to vanish into thick vines, yet minutes later, the Dominion's forward command post was in flames. Not a single human casualty was visible. A Trelva soldier reported, shaking. It's as if they know every movement we make before we make it. The humans didn't strike for glory. They took only what was necessary, intelligence, supplies, or proof that they were capable. At the same time, a holographic message from the scarred captain reached the Dominion fleets. You thought our survival was luck. You thought we were weak. Every step you take against us, every plan you make, only feeds our preparation. You taught us pain. Now we are teaching the galaxy respect. Across the galaxy, officers who had laughed at the idea of Deathworlders now trembled at the name. Even rumors of a single human sighting could empty an outpost before anyone knew. What happened? In the Senate, a historian presented data from long-lost records. He detailed the raids on early human colonies, the massacres, the enslavement, the destruction of entire settlements on planets considered uninhabitable by most species. The council gasped. For the first time, they realized the humans' campaign wasn't random. It was a calculated response to centuries of mistreatment and neglect. Kalara felt a new respect, tinged with fear. They are not just soldiers, she said quietly. They are survivors of an empire that thought they could be crushed. Every human we see is a testament to what the Dominion tried to destroy and failed. The galaxy started to understand. The humans were not weak. They were forged in suffering, sharpened in the harshest conditions, and now unleashed upon those who had underestimated them. Reports kept coming in. On the desert world of Zarek 7, a human team disabled an entire fleet base using the planet's natural sandstorms. On the toxic swamp world of Dralith, humans adapted to the poisonous air, eliminating patrols with minimal effort. On a frozen moon in the outer rim, humans bypassed orbital defenses, using the ice as cover to take critical communication hubs. Every strike was precise. Every movement was calculated. No human seemed reckless. Yet every alien observer admitted that they had never faced an enemy like this before. Even more disturbing were the rumors. Among surviving Dominion officers, some claimed they had seen humans using alien technology in ways that defied logic. Weapons adapted on the fly, shields bypassed effortlessly, entire fleets immobilized without a shot fired. But Kalara knew the truth. It wasn't technology alone. It was understanding the predator-prey dynamics, reading the enemy's fear, exploiting every mistake. The humans weren't just strong. They were smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anyone expected. At night, on a remote planet far from the war zones, the scarred captain addressed his soldiers. "We did not start this war," he said. "We only survived it. They made us into what we are." And now, we will remind them why no one should underestimate Deathworlders. The soldiers nodded. Each one carried the memory of a lost colony, a destroyed home, or a fallen comrade. Each one knew the stakes, not just victory, but survival, and respect for their species. One soldier whispered to another, "Do they really think we are a joke?" The captain overheard. He smiled faintly. "They will learn." Back in the Senate, the alien leaders convened in emergency session. Admiral Tovak banged his claw against the table. "We must respond, send fleets, reinforce colonies. We cannot allow humans to continue unchecked." Kalara shook her head. "Every response we've sent has failed. Every fleet we've deployed has been outmaneuvered. They are not just attacking. They are teaching us what fear means. And we are too arrogant to understand it." A young senator added cautiously, "Do you think we can negotiate?" Kalara's eyes were sharp. "They will not negotiate. They will not stop until we learn what they are. And what they are is humanity, stronger than any of us imagined. Smarter, deadlier, and patient." The final transmissions of the day came from the humans themselves, across multiple channels. Holographic messages displayed the same black ship, black armor, and the same scarred captain. His eyes pierced every officer who watched. "We survived your attempts to destroy. US, we survived your experiments. We survived your mockery. Now you will survive our return. And remember, every joke ends. Every smile disappears." The broadcasts ended with a single phrase, echoing across the galaxy. Phase 3. Every world now whispered the same thing. Humans were not just soldiers. Humans were survivors, hunters, and Deathworlders. And the galaxy understood the terrible truth. The humans they had mocked for centuries were back. They had endured the impossible, adapted to every trial, and now returned to teach a lesson the galaxy would never forget. The joke had ended, the smiles were gone, and the war had only just begun. The void of space was silent. Not even the hum of engines could be heard over the tension that gripped every Dominion and Trelva ship. Supreme Admiral Tovak stared at the tactical display aboard the Vorak Spear. Red dots represented human forces scattered across the system, far fewer than the galaxy had imagined, yet somehow more dangerous than 100 fleets combined. Reports say they've taken entire starbases without firing a single shot. One officer whispered, voice trembling. Tovak slammed his claw on the console. "Impossible. They cannot survive in open space unshielded, unarmed, against this many ships." A voice from the rear spoke softly. "Admiral, they have survived worse. Class 7 Deathworlds, toxic atmospheres, extreme gravity. We cannot imagine their limits." Tovak's eyes narrowed. "Then we will break them. We must." Meanwhile, in the dark corridors of human ships, soldiers prepared calmly. The scarred captain walked among them, inspecting gear, checking datapads. "Today," he said, his voice low but firm, "we remind them why every galaxy that laughed at us has lost." Today, the smiles disappear. The soldiers nodded. Every human aboard the fleet carried memories. Lost colonies, broken families, burned homes. Every attack they had endured had forged them into something the galaxy could not understand. Young soldier asked, "Captain, will they understand why we do this?" The captain's scarred face softened briefly. "They will learn. It may take time, but every lesson has a cost. And they will pay that cost today." The humans jumped into the Dominion system using high-speed void drives, sudden, instantaneous, appearing simultaneously in multiple locations. The first Dominion destroyer to detect them sent out an alarm. By the time the message reached the fleet command, the humans were already inside the main orbital ring of the capital world. Korath Prime. Ships that had once mocked humanity now scrambled in chaos. Missiles streaked toward the intruders, railguns spun, and plasma cannons fired in every direction. The humans didn't dodge. They advanced calmly, shields flaring only when necessary. A single human strike team deployed from the lead vessel, dropping pods directly onto the orbital platforms. Seconds later, communications went dead across the planetary defenses. Screens went black, sensors failed, and automated turrets turned. Useless. On the main bridge of the Vorax Spear, Tovak's claws shook as he tapped frantic commands. All ships retreat, regroup, target their bridge. But targeting data failed. Every attempt to lock onto a human vessel ended in error. The humans moved with impossible precision. One team infiltrated the orbital defense stations, bypassing shields and cutting power lines. Another boarded the main docking hub. Inside, Dominion soldiers were captured before they could raise weapons. No human fatalities were reported, yet every squad felt the weight of terror pressing down. A soldier whispered to his comrade, They don't even fight like us. They fight like predators, like Deathworlders." On the ground, human strike teams moved through city streets. Toxic storms swept through the capital, fire rained from damaged orbital defenses, and chemical clouds drifted through broken districts. Yet the humans walked forward unharmed, their armor adapted to every hazard. Alien soldiers who tried to engage them were either incapacitated by clever traps or captured silently. By midday, the entire city was under human control. The Dominion's planetary governor sent a desperate message to the flagship. "We are compromised. We cannot hold." The humans didn't celebrate. They moved on, leaving a single message carved into the palace walls in large, dark letters. "Phase 3 complete. Remember this." Every soldier in the city, every officer in orbit, and every senator on distant worlds saw it. The message was simple, direct, terrifying. The humans were not stopping. They would not stop. In the Senate chambers, panic had reached a climax. Senators argued, clawing at each other for solutions. Yet every proposal was worse than useless. General Kalara stood in the center, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We have underestimated them for centuries. Every joke, every mockery, every dismissal has led to this. They are not just warriors. They are the result of every cruelty we committed. And now, we will see what we deserve." A young senator whispered, "Can we fight them?" Kalara's gaze was steady. "We cannot, not as we are, and not with the arrogance we carry. They survive where we cannot. They adapt faster than we can plan. They strike where we are weakest. And most importantly, they never stop." Back in orbit of Korath Prime, the humans prepared to leave. Ships that had appeared from nowhere now aligned, forming a fleet that seemed larger than it really was. Illusion, decoys, and technology no alien could comprehend. The scarred captain addressed his soldiers once more. "We have shown them the cost of underestimating us. But the galaxy is not yet awake. Every fleet, every colony, every senator, they will remember today, and they will remember what we are." A young operative asked quietly, "Will they ever stop hunting us?" The captain's eyes hardened. "No, and that is why we will never stop either. We survive, we adapt, we endure. And every time they smile at us again, we will make that smile disappear." The human fleet jumped away in a series of sudden, precise maneuvers. Dominion sensors picked up flashes in multiple sectors, then nothing. When the fleet returned to normal scanning, only devastation remained. Colonies were crippled, fleets incapacitated, supply routes broken. The galaxy had received its final lesson. On every world, alien leaders debated in silence. The humans had not just won battles, they had won understanding. Every species, every fleet, every colony now realized the terrifying truth. Humans were not a threat in the usual sense. They were a force of nature. In the final scenes, scattered survivors reported what they saw. Humans walking calmly through fires, storms, and toxic clouds. Soldiers freezing in panic at the sight of a single human pod in orbit. Fleet commanders watching their ships fail one by one, powerless to intervene. And everywhere, the same message lingered. The joke is over. The smiles are gone. As the humans retreated to regroup, the galaxy was left in shock. Fear had replaced arrogance, respect had replaced mockery, and one message echoed in every mind. Never underestimate humanity, because when they strike, nothing, no storm, no weapon, no fleet, no environment can stop them. The galaxy had learned its lesson, harsh, complete, permanent dot, and somewhere in the void, the scarred captain looked out at the stars and whispered to his fleet, "Prepare for the next phase. The smiles have disappeared, and they will never return."